How's it going, guys? We have just over a week until the NFL draft. Time has flown by, and we're already into the middle of April. It's about time, to be honest with you, because I am starting to get sick of all these mock drafts, all these, this guy should go here, woulda, coulda, shoulda, all that stuff. And I'm just ready to see what's actually going to happen. I feel like I've seen almost every landing spot I could think of, or so we think. Every year some crazy stuff happens that we just don't see coming, and I'm ready for it. I know you guys are ready for it, so I'm just extremely excited to be able to have the final intel that we need to be able to get our final rankings out there. And so the next couple videos, that's what I'm going to be doing, is showing you guys the rankings, before the combine. While I would have liked to have gotten these out before the actual NFL combine, I was still tweaking with some stuff. I was really busy. So I'm going to give them to you now, kind of go through my process, going to give you the post-combine numbers, go through that process. And then once we have the NFL draft, I'm going to try to get that video out as quick as possible. So when you guys have your rookie drafts, you know who you should be drafting. But let's quit the chit chat. Let's get right into it. I'm going to show you guys how I was able to, kind of create a grade for before the combine, because there's not, we don't know a ton about these guys physically, and we can always see his production. That's what a large part of this grade is. And so I'm going to show you exactly how accurate it is, and then show you the grades for the 2023 class. But first, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video. If you haven't, subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and click that button. And most importantly, down in the description, you're going to find a Discord link to our free Discord chat. If you just want to talk about Dynasty Fantasy Football, which is all we talk about here, and you're looking for a tight-knit group to talk about that with, or ask me any questions, go into that. Click that link, and you will find a room full of people who are more than willing to talk Dynasty Fantasy Football. I really enjoy having a small community. So go click that link, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So here is the pre-combine grade. All right. So what goes into this exactly? You might be thinking to yourself. So generally, now this isn't everything, but these are some harping points. Production is a big chunk of the grade. You want a guy from college who's shown he can put on. And there's a couple guys in this class that didn't exactly exceed, that people like a lot, that this model is not going to like very much, which is kind of sad for me to see. But we'll get into that here in a couple minutes. Looking at production, you have your typical dominator. One thing I like to really look at is their missed tackles, specifically their missed tackles per attempt. I feel like it shows, their ability to be elusive. And I think that's a great trait to have when you're a running back. And I feel like the correlation, actually, at all the statistics I've looked through, missed tackles per attempt is a great stat to look at when trying to see future success in fantasy football for running backs. And then you have your other ones that are pretty common, yards per team pass attempt. When we get guys who are really good pass catching backs, it's going to really help them here in this model, as we'll see here. Historically, they've been some really good ones high up. Christian McCaffrey was a great example. But, when it comes to the production, you got to have a guy who's shown he can be a traditional 3-down back when you're going to be paying the early first, mid first prices. And so being able to knock all these off is really important. The film grade, I also like to incorporate multiple different sources for film grades that are in the football community outside of fantasy. Guys that I trust who have shown that they can, have proven success. So that's what we have here. I'm going to combine all these into one grade, and that's how we kind of get to where we're going to get. Now, how successful is this grade? I want to be able to show you guys exactly, is it something that you want to worry about? Do we even care about this grade? Does it suck in comparison to draft capital? So that's what I want to show you. So on the left here, you will see essentially my grades for the pre-combine. For all of the rookies, I believe there are 195, 196 running backs since 2016. And as you can see here, an R squared value of 0.471, which I think is pretty solid. I was happy with that. And then if we look at draft capital, it's 0.414. So essentially what we're saying is our grade is more accurate at depicting and predicting, I guess, that would be the better term, who is going to be better at fantasy, which is all we care about, right? We want the most fantasy points. So the model just from the pre-combine, and from here it only gets more accurate the farther we get along in the offseason, is already better than draft capital, which I think is a great success and very interesting. So just so you guys know, when you're looking at this monitor, you're looking at these grades, it is accurate. It's not perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. And you shouldn't solely base your opinions off of this and your rankings off of this. Who you're going to pick should not solely be based off of this model. I'm not going to do that. I don't expect you guys to do that. Please do not. It's just another piece of the puzzle, a big piece of the puzzle for me, but it's just another piece of the puzzle to try and figure out who's going to be the best for fantasy football. So, the moment I know that you guys have been waiting for, I'm going to show you my 2023 pre-combine grades. Granted, these are going to change quite a bit as we get into the post-combine, which I will post soon because the combine's already happened, and then once the draft happens, it'll change even more. But without further ado, here are the 2023 grades. So, shocker, Bijan Robinson, dog at the very top. And the percentile is the percentile of all of the running backs in the model and where they fall amongst those other ones. So, like I said, since 2016, here's where all those guys. So let's kind of break it down here. Bijan really high up there. I believe he's the third highest ever graded running back. Saquon, and you might not believe this, Rashad White was number 2 highest. He was actually a very good prospect, and his combine numbers were not great. He actually dropped significantly. With his draft capital, it was decent. If Tampa Bay doesn't draft a running back, Rashad White could be a very good buy this offseason. We'll talk about that perhaps in a different episode. But yeah, Bijan, we can harp on it all day long. 3-down running back. He's a running back 1 of this class. He's fantastic. And after the combine, nothing changed. He was still fantastic. But we're going to get into some interesting, I'd like to see the comments just talk so much about Deuce Vaughn. I was shocked. I had not watched Deuce Vaughn really at all. I know who he is, and I'm familiar with him. But I hadn't sat down and watched Kansas State play football. And wow, he ranked extremely high. And if you look at his production, he was fantastic in college. He lit up the stat sheet, especially with his pass catching, which I think really, really helps him here in the pre-combine grades. A guy like Devin Achane, super quick, decent running back. Dwayne McBride making a name for himself here. I thought that was quite interesting, him popping up there. Then we get into our pretty regular guys, Zach Charbonnet, Tyjae Spears, Keaton Mitchell. I don't foresee him remaining anywhere near these guys. Severely underweight, undersized. Now, I know you'll say, Noah, well, Deuce Vaughn's literally the smallest prospect they've had since they've had the combine. He's got an entirely different profile in terms of production than Keaton Mitchell. Way better. But we'll see where Keaton Mitchell lands. And then we start to get into this interesting realm of, there's a lot of running backs in this class, but guys like, Tank Bigsby, Joe Bonaconda, Kendre Miller falls to page 2 there on the right-hand side. He didn't test very well. Zach Evans tested extremely poorly, mostly because he didn't have production profile. Zach Evans he has not shown in his years in college he's been able to produce. Now some might say, well, he had to go against Kendre Miller, TCU, then he goes over to Ole Miss, and then how he's got to deal with Quinshon Judkins, who's a stud freshman. So keep your eyes out for the class of 2025 running backs. But you know what? At the end of the day, you got to produce. He's had multiple chances. I know he's playing against good running backs, but this model's not going to like him. Another guy who a lot of people like from the film aspect, Roshan Johnson, did not test well. I mean, he's got Bijan Robinson there with him. He's just, at the end of the day, he's not going to be able to test well if he's not showing production, which is a big part, as well as, film grade is theirs, too. So as we look at it here, things to take away. Deuce Vaughn, in my opinion, in all the mock drafts I've gotten him, it has been mid to late third and even in the fourth round in rookie drafts. And I'm taking that all day long. I think he's going to be I feel like people just look over him, to be honest with you. They just look completely over him, probably because he's 5'5", and it's really easy to do physically and hypothetically. But he's just a guy that I think is going to have a Darren Sproles-like career, possibly if he gets in the right fit, which the draft will show. Now, if he gets in a crappy fit with the draft, I can understand if you want to avoid him. I'm going to be picking up a lot of Deuce Vaughn shares. Hopefully, it brings me some pretty good fantasy production down the line. But outside of that, I don't know if there's a whole lot else to touch on except for the types. Now, I explained it in my previous video when I talked about how I got to the types and the different categories. But essentially, these types here, if you are a workhorse plus, that is what we want. You're over 210, your BMI is over 30, traditional 3-down back. That is good. That's what we want. Workhorse light is, you're 210, but you're under the 30 BMI. So, Zach Charbonnet, he's a little bit on the taller side. He's still heavy on the taller side. Tank Bigsby just barely fits in there. I believe he's at 209 or so, or 210, excuse me. But they're barely getting in there. And then we have your committee plus, which would be under the 210, above 30 BMI, and then the running back by committee. This is where this class scares me, guys. They are under 210, under 30 BMI. Basically, you're really small. The hit rate on this, not good. Not good at all. If you join the Discord, I talk about it a little bit. But if you essentially look back and see who has hit from a fantasy football perspective since 2016 as a running back by committee back, it's Christian McCaffrey, end of list. And I mean that like the next best player is Ronald Jones. That's like number 2 best player. So this class is scary. It is small. It scares the crap out of me when you have your top guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, Devin A-Chain, Tyjae Spears. I don't know how it's going to, the odds aren't great. So am I saying you should be scared of drafting Jahmyr Gibbs? No, not really, because there's no one that's ever been like him. There's no one that is like Jahmyr Gibbs. He's so athletic and fast, quick, that there's no one to comp him to. I know people have said Jamal Charles. I don't have data going back that far to be able to do that, but it just, he could produce in the SEC. He's produced his whole career. I'm not going to worry too much, but this class does scare me. So outside of that, guys that we're going to historically, if they don't have good grades, if we get through this and the final grade's not great, I'm looking to find flyers that are workhorse light, or workhorse plus. Now, I'm not saying, Tion Evans and Tavion Thomas down there are going to be the next big things. They're not going to be the next Elijah Mitchells. However, if I have to choose a Tank Bigsby or a Keaton Mitchell, which things are going to change, I'm taking Tank Bigsby. Even if you took the names away, if you just give me the profiles and they gave me their weights, I'm going to go with that alone. And you can do that with any of these guys, like Kendre Miller. I'm going to take him over a lot of guys just because I think his talent's good, but also because of his size, so on and so forth. So that is a big thing to keep in mind. We'll talk about that more as we go on throughout this draft process. But that is all I have for you guys on this video. I appreciate you guys sticking around watching this. I'll come out with a post-combine one here soon, and we'll see you on the next one.